Oh, okay, okay. Hi, my name is Diane. I'm a board certified psychiatric and holistic nurse, and I'm here to teach you about part 4 of a 6-part series for my ALF training, and this is resident progress in achieving treatment goals. So it's supporting the consumer to success with treatment plan goals. So I'm going to move us down here. So first we have to understand, before we can help our consumers meet their treatment plan goals, what is a treatment plan? So a treatment plan is really a roadmap. It's basically how to get the patient from an identified situation, a diagnosis, some problems they're encountering, to better outcomes. So it is designed for this program. There are treatment plans for all kinds of things, but we're doing mental health. So a mental health treatment plan is a tool designed by an interdisciplinary team. And this is a group of professionals that could include the psychiatrist, the psychiatric nurse, which I am, PT, OT, speech, the pharmacist, and the patient themselves. And of course, I'd like to thank the treatment plan and the interdisciplinary team. They're the architects that create a blueprint for the direct care providers and other paraprofessionals to implement. So they designed the plan, and then the rest of us, we all are responsible for actually implementing it, including the client. They have a job as well. So when we talk about treatment plans and goals, we talk about SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timed. So all goals should be these things, and SMART is an acronym to help you remember that. So the more specific the goal, the more clarity. If you know you want to go to Poughkeepsie, it makes it a little clearer on how to design your roadmap. Measurable, you need to know, like, if you want somebody to walk, at first you want them to walk 3 steps, and then 5, and then 8, and then 10. And then when they achieve those, that's measurable. You are able to say, well, they met that goal. It has to be attainable. You wouldn't want to, like, let's say a paraplegic wanted to walk his daughter down the aisle in 3 months. It may be something that's realistic for the future with technology or whatever, but it wouldn't really be realistic or attainable in 3 months in most situations. And then, of course, all goals should be timed. It's been said that an idea or a goal without a deadline is just a dream. So you really want to be able to achieve whatever goal you set forth within a certain amount of time, 3 months, 2 months, a week, and then you review it to see if your plan is working. So specific mental health treatment plans and tailoring care to the individual person. As we've had a theme the whole way through our trainings, this is number 4, that every human being that you encounter as a direct care professional is unique, even when they have similar diagnoses. So I work with IDD and autistic individuals, and it's always said that once you meet an autistic person, you've met one autistic person, meaning that everyone is unique. Every person that comes in front of you is absolutely their own unique individual. So even though they have a similar diagnosis, that's the umbrella, that's the overarching umbrella that kind of gives us some guidance on what direction to go in. So if someone's bipolar, we kind of know that they have similar, maybe some issues. We group them together because it gives us some sort of traction towards helping them. But it doesn't mean they're the same people with the same symptoms. Similar, but never the same. So if you have had experience with dementia patients, there is a danger and a bias in assuming that they will all respond the same because each person's different. So, and the individuals, like the comorbidities, the older we get, the more different diagnoses we have. It simply isn't just bipolar. It could be bipolar with cardiomyopathy and maybe diabetes or paraplegia or an amputee. So we have, the older you get, the more you move through life, maybe you have more diagnoses, so your treatment plan should address the uniqueness of the human being in front of you. So we'll go down to, so the end goal, or what is the whole goal for treatment planning? And it is to provide a roadmap from where the consumer is right now and to where things will hopefully be different at the end of treatment. And it's always multiple steps. Just like I gave an example in the class on if a person wants to drive from the East Coast to the Pacific Ocean, they have to know where they are first. They have to know they're in Poughkeepsie or in Camden, New Jersey, or in Pittsburgh. You have to know where you are to know if you've made progress to where you're going. So the end goal for treatment or care planning for a depressed person might be to feel better and not to have as many depressive symptoms. But we first have to define what that means for them. What does that manifest in their life? How do they manifest depression? How does it impact their life? Then as we set our short-term goals, we can then know, did we resolve them? Did we make progress? And it should not be assumed even if you did want to go west, it should not be assumed that you know how to drive, that you have a car, that you have money to go, you have a GPS. So in the beginning, the clarity and the intention put into the care planning will determine ultimately the success of the treatment plan. So treatment planning is a multiple step process. So everybody comes and they have lots of us, we have a million issues, all of us, but really you can't really address all of them. You have to pick the ones that you get the most bang for your buck out of. So, and then you might have the top 10 problems, and then you pick the top 3. What are the 3 things that you could address for that individual that would make all other treatments not necessary, or would it collapse time around their goals? So if somebody had massive sleep disruption and depressive symptoms, maybe you would triage and address the sleep disruption first, because once they started getting nourishing sleep, all other outcomes may improve. So we try to pick the things that we think would be the most impactful to address first. If someone had a terribly high blood sugar all the time, we probably wouldn't really be addressing their lack of social interaction or something before we address their blood sugar. So we try to pick those things, and the interdisciplinary team identifies them, and then they develop short and long-term goals, and the client hopefully is on board and helps create those. So you can't, or I can't, talk about treatment planning unless we talk about treatment fidelity. And fidelity means honor and commitment and follow through with the plan. So in layman's term, it means that the person implementing the plan is doing the plan, they're dedicated to it, and they're implementing it consistently over time. And I'd like to give the example, if someone worked out very, very hard 1 day a week and followed their diet exactly on Sundays and the rest of the week did nothing, they would certainly put more effort into that 1 day, but the person that was able to do a little bit over time for that 7 days would have better outcomes. As long as they were intentional, followed the plan, did the right things. So the fidelity, that's where the direct care provider and the frontline staff come in. Most of the time, they are responsible for a lot of if socialization was a goal, to get them out to bingo, take them for a walk around the block, sit with them at dinner, whatever those things would be. If 3 people did it a week on their shift, but not 7, the person that received the care from 7 individuals would collapse time around their goals, and they would be further ahead. So missing 1 day, or letting the person sleep in, or missing a little bit of here, or not doing, it really adds up in the end. So when we do, as part of my job, when I'm not doing this, I do data. And the first thing we do is there treatment fidelity? Was there fidelity in collecting the data or the things that we're looking at? And that was really the direct care workers. Did they accurately document and record what we needed to evaluate, is this treatment plan working? And you will be loved if you do that correctly, if you have fidelity to the plan of care, accurate documentation. That is just an exemplary employee. Let me see. So going back, we can have the best treatment plan in the world, but without fidelity and actually someone implementing it, it's just a piece of paper that leads to nowhere. It takes action steps and fidelity to the treatment plan. So great treatment plans. What's a great treatment plan look like? It shows a picture of what is going on for the consumer currently. So we know, okay, Mr. Harris doesn't get out of bed. He cries all the time. He's lost 15 pounds in the last 2 weeks. Doesn't want to eat. Keeps the lights off in his room. Refuses to come out. Diagnosis of depression. And he doesn't want to take any pills, or he spits them out. I don't know, I'm making this up. But so that's where he is. We know that he lost his wife. We know that the treatment plan included grief counseling. They ordered him an antidepressant medication. The social worker is talking to his daughter to help bring people in. So there's a lot of things happening. And maybe some of the things that we would measure and mark, or the frontline worker would work with him, would be including him in activities, marking whether he is compliant with his bathing. So those little things really add up. And then we can tell, like, oh, okay, so he wasn't doing that, but 3 weeks later, he's now coming out to dinner. He's now taking a bath regularly. He's not spitting his meds out, whatever. So that's how you are a part of the plan, because you're the frontline worker. You're the one that sees the response. You're the one that sees both the subjective and the objective. Objective is just verifiable. It's objective. But the subjective observations of direct care staff, like, oh, I think he's a little better, you know, he's smiling more, he actually laughed at one of my jokes, those things are really important to know too. So components of a treatment plan, it addresses the consumer's behaviors, thoughts, and feelings. Because truthfully, unless with a mental health plan, unless somebody's really having a behavior, we're not going to have a plan to fix it. So there is going to be some type of behavior, thoughts, and feelings that are going to be addressed. A safety plan if needed, that's a treatment plan. If you have someone who's a wanderer, if you have someone who has suicidal ideation, someone who's lack of self-care, those are safety plans. And specific types of therapies, mental health medications, counseling. And then I think that a good treatment plan addresses who gets the care, what is happening, where is it happening, when does it happen, how often does it occur, and how is it going to happen, and what is the rationale for doing it. If you can look at the components of the treatment plan and answer those questions, you probably have a very solid plan. And as a direct care provider, you might say, okay, they say that he's supposed to go build puzzles with twice a week, but it doesn't say who, and it doesn't say where or how, and so that might be something that you could contribute to it. It's easy, words are cheap, just write it down. But a better treatment plan would say, Tuesdays at 7, the 3 to 11 staff will take Mr. Harris to the day room and build a puzzle with him for 30 minutes. So that gives you like, oh, okay, I understand that. And when you have clarity in how a treatment plan is written, then you just don't say, oh, I thought somebody else did it on daylight, because it kind of gave you exactly who, what, where, when, how, and why. Oh, here, who, that, I just said that. So resident progress, so this is what this is about. So how do we know that they're progressing? We have remember the long-term goal, where they eventually want to go, and then the short-term goals. The short-term goals are how we know they're making progress. So short-term goals are usually, they're time limited because they're smart. And let's say somebody is ordered a new antidepressant. And antidepressants take a while to work. We know that sometimes they don't work for 6 weeks. So, because it takes a while for them to absorb enough into the body. So what we would do for that, because we have to wait, it's not like a Tylenol, we would measure sleep. Is he sleeping better? Hours of sleep? Is he eating? How many times the trays are outside the door? Is he more engaged? Does he seem to have a brighter affect? So those are the types of things that you could document in your narrative note, because you took the time to understand that this man was diagnosed with depression, he's ordered a new medication, and that your observations as a direct care worker are relevant in the reassessment of his progress and meeting the short-term goals. Okay, so when we're back to short-term and long-term goals, I think I already talked about all of them without going through this. But so I guess when I think of, I always use a road trip out west, because it just kind of illustrates for you that your ultimate goal is to dip your toes in the Pacific Ocean, but you're in, I don't know, a wool sweater in New Jersey. And there's a lot of planning that goes to driving or flying or walking or maybe taking a train. So there's a lot of short-term goals that need to be accomplished before you're able to actually do what you ultimately wanted to do, which was to get to the ocean. And then how you know that you're doing that is you could, if you didn't have a roadmap, if you didn't know what turn to take, if you didn't know to get gas, lots of things, or find a hotel, you could waste a lot of time. You might never get out of the cul-de-sac. You might drive in circles. So you actually need a roadmap. And then you need some way to verify, okay, I think I'm in Kansas. So you need to know, did you make where you wanted to go? Most people, when I think about our road trip, that's why they build freeways. When we are depressed, we want the person to have a freeway out of the depression. So we really want the shortest distance between 2 points. So we want fidelity to the treatment plan, and we want clear, concise goals that can be met by the individual to get them to where they want to be, which is less depressed. In a road trip, you could go on all kinds of tangents and drive everywhere and go down every, I don't know, country road, but not with mental health care, not with any type of health care. You definitely want to have the shortest distance, reasonable distance between 2 points. And your short-term goals will keep you on that trajectory. When you think, oh, we were supposed to be here, like by 3 weeks in, this man should have had like an uplifting, like if he was on this med, or 6 weeks in, if this medication was working, we were going to expect this. And if it doesn't come or doesn't work, that's our short-term goal. We're like, hey, wait a minute, maybe we need to rethink this. And then we tweak. We keep tweaking until we're successful. So I just did a little bit of a case study. So just typical depression and anxiety after suffering a fall from home. And I think that in previous courses, or when we talked about it, anybody that's admitted to assisted living or long-term care or any type of group living facility, I believe, should be assessed for depression in the weeks following for multiple reasons. They may be there long-term, they could be there short-term. They basically, if they are there long-term, they've lost a good part of their identity, their home, they're not working anymore. Maybe all of everything they own is put into a small room. Could be like a roommate situation. So there's a lot of reasons for people to become depressed. They don't have to stay depressed, but it's not an unusual thing for them to be depressed. So every frontline worker needs to know what that looks like for a person. Flat affect, irritability is a big one, frequent crying with tears, isolating, refusing to eat, losing weight, gaining weight, eating too much, and being very, very cranky. So when you look at the treatment plan, they could have counseling. They could be given medications. They could be given a nutritional consult, a social worker referral, sleep medication. And so what are some things that you could do? You're like, well, she's getting the care and she's super cranky and I can't take it. I got 3 kids at home. Like, the lady drives me crazy. She's always screaming. Now, this is the individual that probably needs you more. And so I think that when we talked in previous classes about our own internal biases and how we kind of run from people with mental health issues, I mean, we might work our shift, but we're not running into the room to help them. And so these are some of the people that probably need you to lean in and run towards them instead of saying, can you take room 204 because she's driving me crazy? I'll do everything else for you tonight. A lot of people, you can't fault you for feeling that way, but when someone's very, very irritable, it might not be their personality. It could be they're depressed and they need you more so than ever. And so how could you help? Keep in mind the SMART goals. You could do things that were very objective, like if weight loss is an issue, make sure that you have fidelity, there's that word, to weekly weights. And you report weight loss very promptly. I say weekly weights because I work with residential and it's exhausting. No one ever thinks they're important. It's something that I talk about all the time. Did you get the weight? Did you get the weight? And I think that sometimes medications are ordered based on weight. It's really an important thing. Like the direct care worker, those little tasks that people think, oh, the weekly weights, sometimes they're very, very crucial and very important. Also, calorie counts. If somebody's saying, hey, I want a 3-day calorie count on this individual, I don't think that they're eating enough or they're eating too much. That's another thing where you could be very objective and write very specifically what they ate or what they didn't. I see a lot of lapse in fidelity with that. Taking some responsibility for knowing the signs of anxiety and depression, because again, the frontline person who works with the individual is the one that knows them the best, actually, and really you can be very impactful in improving their life, or thinking like, I have this observation and here's what I'm thinking. Those are always valuable insights. Here, if she's cranky and irritable, spending a little time with the consumer to validate her worth is vital. It's just so vital. It's just so hard to bridge that gap between someone who's extremely cranky and you have a long shift to actually maybe spending time or listening or just slowing down just a little bit. It could just be absolutely life-changing for them. Making sure that she has activity scheduled and is assisted to the activity room as needed. Lots of times people that feel like they're a bother, maybe they have to be transferred to a wheelchair, or they're afraid because they have to go to the bathroom so frequently. They might want to go to activities, but because they don't want to be a bother, they'll say, oh, that's okay, I don't really want to go. Maybe just matter-of-factly, they might really not want to go, but make sure that you explore every avenue to encourage them and support them in going in case they're trying to just not be a bother. Talking, just talking to her to see what she really likes to do and being a part of making that happen. Maybe she doesn't like puzzles. Maybe she likes to play solitaire. Maybe she really likes to gamble, I don't know, or you could play Pokino or something. Because I always try to think that every person, whether they're autistic or IDD, mentally ill, schizophrenic, dementia, I think this is a sovereign human being in front of me. Like, this is the only life they get, and how can I be a part of helping them live the best life they can? And sometimes we forget that, particularly with dementia patients are very severe. Like, this is the only life they have. And so if we've signed on to be their helper, then help them be their best person. And part of that is honoring that treatment plan. So what is the direct care worker's role? We've gone over that. You implement the blueprint. You are the person that puts it together a lot of the time. The architects are the doctors and the nurses and the social workers, but you actually implement the plan of care. And I think that the two parts would be not only implementing it accurately, validating with someone who has constructed the plan of care. How do you do that? Like, if you're not really sure how to do it, ask. If it's important enough to be put on a care plan, don't assume that, like, try to figure out, why did they take the time to put this on the care plan? And if you aren't clear, ask. Some things seem stupid. They're like, not again. Why are we doing this again? But if you have understanding, maybe you'll know how to implement it better, and then that person will have better outcomes. Because really, basically, the faster or the more timely, I don't want to say fast like you're going to rush through things, but the faster and the more fidelity you have to the original treatment plan is the faster you figure out, oh, this plan isn't working, or this plan is working. So even if it's a bad plan, or if you're thinking, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, fidelity to it gives you information and gives you a voice to say, we did implement this, and in my humble estimation, it does not work, and here's why. And then you can be a part of the treatment plan on a secondary level because your insight is invaluable. But you can only do that if you've actually implemented it and you've actually tried to follow the plan of care. And that's it. And I did have an assistant, and I think I just have to turn it off.